everybody, please, 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 let me see if it's up now. So I'm going to say, should be up now. Just let me know if it is up, because if it isn't up, that's not what's up. I'm seeing 0 concurrent viewers, 1 concurrent viewers, 0 on the analytics. Okay, it's up, okay. I trust it this time. I was just like, it's a little muggy out, and I was kind of napping, and then I'm like, I gotta get up, and then it's like, I gotta take out the trash, and it's like, now I gotta, no, come on, get a drink, no, we're good. So I'm drinking some coffee to wake myself up for a moment. Anyway, last time, our main character, our knight wannabe, apparently, we don't know how he becomes a knight yet, Adder, got into a bar fight with some posh guy, making fun of his boss, and then, yeah, apparently that person was related to royalty, and now we're on death row. Alright, C2 waiting. Okay. We have 1 concurrent viewer. It says, it claims, I know who that one is. Anyway. Alright, let's get going. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Locked in Freedom, or How to Keep Your Head Up When You're About to Lose It. Bells tolled over the city, announcing the end of curfew, the start of a new day for the city at large, but the last for a poor, misplaced buck. But let's leave Adder's story suspended for a moment. Haha, you see what I did there? And take a step back. A narrative metafiction step back. Not a temporal or a physical one. I just pulled in the shortest emitters res of all time. At this point, I hope you may have realized that my version of the story of the Knight of the Upper Field is much more about the people in Adder's life than it is about the boy himself, and that it's sorely lacking in knights. And not only knights, no, another essential archetype in a chivalrous legend that he was missing. The princess. She's been missing for a moon now, even though Adler knew her location with pinpoint accuracy. Fortunately for Adder's as yet unwritten destiny, nobility tends to aggregate and grow towards much like things, like certain types of fun guy. Aw, nice! Good breakfast. I still think the best coffee I've ever had was still at that, at the, Worldwide Fur Camp. I still think that. I think it was Lavacha. I haven't tried it yet, though. Not far from the scaffold in a lonely cell by the entrance to the city guards keep, an imprisoned princess eagerly awaits her rescue. The legitimacy of her imprisonment would be at the very least disputed. And though the little princess has been imposed upon her, the title of princess has been imposed upon her, she aspired to be much more. Expecting a knightly rescue is, however, a matter of honor at this point. I wouldn't dare say what kind of matter of headbutting a dungeon wall over and over it was, but, however...
I'm going to slap him. I'm going to saw his horns off with a spoon. I'm going to make a skirt out of his cape and burn this place to the ground and make soup with his roasted... Ah, Sir Askadath. Finally. Wait, did she just say Askinoff?
Yes, she did. Don't say another word until we're done here.
I'm afraid that Sir Askinoff is currently indisposed, my son. He has personally tasked me with the crucial mission of escorting the Jasif back to the bordello when she came.
Excuse me? Did I hear you wrong? Or are you really saying that he's had me waiting a whole night in the dungeon like some common thief just to have his butler fetch me without any further explanation?
Affirmative, my son.
So what exactly does he expect me to do? Go back empty-handed after spending the whole night out? I can't leave without my payment.
Then by all means stay, my son. I will ask Sir Askinoff to come at his earliest.
I have waited enough. You will take me to him, or I will have you front the payment on his behalf.
I don't appreciate your implications, my son. I am a loyal steward. I could never. Sir Askinoff? Sir, if you have finished polishing your horns, there is a matter that requires your undivided attention.
Hush! I'm brooding!
I realize how important that must be to you, sir, but if I could have a moment of your time.
I said no interruptions, damn it! It takes me out of my dramatic...
The door flew open almost immediately. There stood a deer with a jaw and a chest with a volume such that it would seem the gods saved some extra mass for him when all of Deerkin was made. His huge horns were so gleamy and well kept that one would mistake them for marble. His arms were the size of melons. This deer-shaped force of nature tried his level best not to look terrified upon seeing the gazelle stomping towards him.
Oh, do my eyes deceive me? Could this truly be the sun of my skies, the star of my firmament, the light of my...
Don't even bother.
Babe, please don't tell me you're truly willing to throw a tantrum over something as insipid as a short interlude in the dungeon.
Short? I have spent 6 hours locked in a filthy cell wondering what had become of you. You were supposed to meet me in the royal pathway last night.
And I did. I waited there until it was obvious you wouldn't show up. It's not my fault you let yourself be arrested before reaching our rendezvous point.
My only fault was expecting the captain of the guard to have enough wits to keep his patrols away from his escort.
Watch that tongue, woman! You are making me look bad in front of my staff.
My opinion of you remains unchanged, sir.
Well, you know, that could mean whatever. My opinion of you was already low to begin with, or I'm ignoring this. I think it was the former, though. Anyways.
Oh, so I'm not discreet enough for you, am I? Would you have me lower my voice, or hide my horns, perhaps? Should I wrap my tail around my waist and dye my hair so as not to stand out around you? Have you forgotten who you are talking to, Sir Askinoff?
Of course not! How could I ever forget? Jasif, Princess of the Sands, most fragrant flower, love of my life, fire of my...
Amir's step forward sounded mightier than any drum.
Could it be then that a knight such as yourself can give orders to royalty now? Or have those polished antlers of yours grown so large that you can no longer see who you are addressing? Are you daft? Or are you just frozen to your sad, wretched core?
No one missed the sounds of Eber's throat made as Sepp nose touched his.
Bammet! Fetch a barrel of my finest wine from the cellar and have it delivered to the Desert Rose at once! I want you to personally make sure that it is most excellent.
Gladly, sir.
Bammet scuttled out of the captain's office, leaving the couple alone at last. The burly deer breathed so deeply that it would seem that his heart was about to collapse at any moment, but his short legs resisted quite well.
Will that be enough?
Of course not. Give me a portion of the assignation for Miss Rochelle as an added compensation. And pray I don't tell her I had to spend the night alone in the dungeon. Though I'm sure she'll find out sooner or later on her own.
Hey, Tony.
As usual.
Sep made to leave, knowing that her righteous fury could only take her so far. A strong hand pulled on hers, making her turn once more.
Is that a tear I spy on your face?
I would never cry for you.
Blast me and all my luck! Oh, how cruel have I been without realizing so. The poison in your tongue was not without reason. Hide behind your lies all you wish. I don't deserve your honesty. I doubted my love for you at a match, but I now see you missed me just as much. Words alone cannot express the pain I feel, my princess. I cannot undo my carelessness, but I can at least attempt to better myself. Please, show me how to please you.
Well, good night, everybody.
How about an explanation? Now.
Elber's cape flew most dramatically as he turned away from Sep. Silence followed after, for the knight had to heft his heavy thoughts before speaking.
A tragedy
Method
befell my house last night. Thamar's heir lies limply on his bed, his face swollen, purple and red, nearly as broken as his spectacles, as lifeless as his right arm. I feel as if the gods were playing an encore of my mistakes on him!
Oh dear. That's horrible. What happened?
What happened indeed? I cannot begin to fathom why my liege would rather spend his time in a tavern in the slums among society's slag instead of joining me for a drink in my palace. But that's not the matter at hand, is it? 2 men remained on the scene when my gods arrived. One was taken to his bed and one to me. All I know after the deed is that the very first moment I saw that wretched, one-eyed scoundrel, I could tell he would be the mastermind behind this attack.
There was an abundance of one-eyed people in the Illyrium, though not nearly as many as there could be, considering how many deer enjoyed butting heads. Sep knew this. She knew that it could have been anyone else, but the only giant tree man in the dungeon had been chanting an acquaintance's name over and over just hours before.
One-eyed scoundrel?
I hesitate to call that creature a deer. Taller than a palm tree, but with antlers short as a fawn's. He would seem a skeleton come alive if it weren't for his horrifyingly gigantic hands. Gross and gibbous, surely deformed by the atrocities he's committed with them. And it's not just his body that's twisted, but his mind. He could have fled, but no! That miscreant preferred to slander the name of my house with treacherous fabrications, claiming he was protecting the honor of some albino broad from Burbeth.
Elber's remark was not without reason. Sep knew this, of course.
That doesn't sound like Burbeth? No. Did I tell you about the lengthy conversation I had with him when you brought him to the Desert Rose? He talked at large about my great figure, and his fondness for dissecting corpses. Do you think there's a link between the two?
Oh, don't mind his rambling. He's just awkward and a little quirky, that's all. It's all those dusty books they feed him in the academy. They cloud up his brain and his glasses. My liege can't tell a woman apart from a scholar anymore.
Oh, goodness.
Right. Well, as you well said, I certainly can't imagine him having any lowly impulses towards anything beyond his alembic. And yet...
Elber's ears perked up as Seth mouthed the last sentence. She was venturing into some truly dangerous territory.
Doesn't the case sound a little incomplete to you, Sir Askadath? I feel like there's a key piece missing somewhere. Not even a roe would be thick-skulled enough to attack a noble without a reason.
A reason? A reason? What reason could anyone have to attack a crippled scholar? Such prurient curiosities what got my brother in this situation in the first place, Jasif. Do not spare any sympathies for that lowlife or his kin.
His kin? Oh, of course. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Showing those reprobates how to deal with their betters. Who would keep them from trampling Macadar saplings and stealing offerings otherwise?
Oh, speaking of voices, yeah, I was the implication I made yesterday that the voice of one of the characters from yesterday was the same as one of the ones from Winds of Change is actually not the case.
Yes, you understand now! They may look and sound dumb, but their upbringing makes them deceptively cunning.
Cunning enough to make you trust them with your biggest secret, only to abandon you when they learn more than they can handle.
That's oddly specific, but yes! Don't ever let your magnanimity cloud your judgment, my princess. Those hoodlums barely count as sentient beings.
You really have some opinions on Rose, don't you?
Of
What?
course.
No! Bite that sword, Jasif! I was talking about peasants, not yellow deer! I don't care what they look like on the outside, Barhan or Ekain, or anything in between! All that matters is that they are the same on the inside! They're filthy, stinky insides!
I'm not speciest, I'm just classist. Which is the oldest ist in the book. The OG-ism. Classism.
Think of all the diseases they carry! Fleas, plagues, illiteracy! Gods, I feel dirty just thinking about all the farmers that still roam this city at large.
Illiteracy is contagious, by the way, apparently. Still.
You killed him?
I tried to do so myself, yes. But no matter how much I insisted that erasing such vileness from Dakna is my responsibility, Irgrab wouldn't shut up about breaking protocol if I so much as drew my sword.
Is he dead or alive then?
See for yourself.
Elbar pointed towards one of the arrow loops on the wall, leaving the gazelle completely frozen on the spot for a moment. What was the appropriate reply to such an off-putting offer? What kind of horror did he intend to show her? A dormant sense of morbid curiosity won the battle against fear and respect. She advanced towards the window overlooking the plaza. And there he was, Adderson, son of Garifaz, standing on the scaffold with a noose on his neck and his hands tied behind his back. The executioner stood grimly beside him, exchanging words that Sep couldn't hear no matter how much she strained her ears. In the time it took Sep to blink, and doubt if watching this horrified scene was actually a good idea, the executioner pulled the lever, opening a trap door between Adder's feet. The way our protagonist fell was so simple and to the point that there was a certain elegance to it, a magnificence that Sep could never appreciate, for she took both of her hands to her face instinctively, afraid she may scream in unison. And so spoke Adder, as the rope finally reached the extent of its length.
Ah! Ow! Ow! Whoa! That didn't hurt half as much as I thought it would. Alrighty then. Which way to my next life?
The whole plaza froze up. No one dared move or say a word. It seemed as if a spell had been cast upon the audience. Adder took notice of their expectant gazes, far too apprehensive to be looking at a fresh corpse, and so he turned his face down at the astonished speed of 1 degree per second. His hooves were rested solidly on the ground. The thoroughbred noose irritated his ridiculously long neck, and merely traveled from his collarbone to the base of his jaw, loosened by his hunched spine along the way. So the way his neck was designed basically messed with the noose. That's hilarious. Yeah, usually I call it speciesism, but yeah, it's an allegory to racism, absolutely. Same with like Zootopia and things like that. Actually, I called what happened in Zootopia dietism. Basically, it's like if someone is a predator or prey, they're treated differently. But for sure, but classism is like OG. Like I actually saw like an article about like when the etymology of each of the isms kind of came to fruition, and classism was like in the late 1800s, whereas like racism was like around the early 1900s. So like, and it was by quite a bit. It was like by 40 years. It's like we didn't even acknowledge our biases, even though they existed. We didn't even have words for them. I'd rather try to avoid something like that. Anyway, let's see. Sept heaved the longest sigh with her hands, feeling her heart beat once more for the first time in an eternity. The whole world mirrored her, finally set into motion by her reaction.
Oh, come on, not again!
The crowd laughed and cheered at his reaction, chanting for his release.
Did you see that? This is the third time that it happens. The third! That rube is sturdier than a Damacadar. I never seen anyone survive being hanged thrice.
What a clown. He's loving the attention.
This is the movie where the West was won.
Is he? Oh, curse that boy and all his lineage! What point is there to a public execution if the prisoner isn't even scared anymore? Tell me, what am I supposed to do with a man that refuses to die and that I'm not allowed to kill?
Sepp looked for an answer among the agitated audience, who were now beginning to scream insults at the guards as they approached Adder.
A trial, perhaps?
So, Elbar is actually my ancestor? What? But that can't be! Adder has to be the... him?
Calm down, kid. By that logic, Bearbiz could be your ancestor too.
Bearbeth is my ancestor?
That's not what I didn't say that. Anyway, look, I know this is kind of important to your blood sacs, but we don't have time to spare. If my hunch is right, you have nothing to worry about. It's simply a matter of a character mixed up over the years to simplify the story.
But what if you're wrong?
You can freak out or you can write, Lynn.
You underestimate me. I can freak out while I write, and I fully intend to do so until this matter is clarified.
Have fun, then.
Adder! How are you hanging, lad? I'm sorry I
Wow,
couldn't make it in
phrasing.
time for the third pass, but here's a little something to make up for it.
Oh, great! You brought water.
Well, I thought you'd be parched from screaming so much. No worries, though, we're almost done here. I just heard back from the executioner, and he's pretty sure he found the right noose for your neck this time. You know what they say, fourth time's the charm.
I don't want to die.
There, drink up. Don't let a little fear of mortality get your spirits down, boy. You're taking the execution like a champ. Trust me, you should have seen how ridiculous the dare before you looked as he fell. You're a natural at this.
Just, what the heck are you even doing here, Heligrab? You don't want to see me die that bad.
What? No! Don't even think that for a second, Adder. I love you. And I know how much death means to you, mortal, so I just figured I would keep you hydrated instead of letting you wilt all alone.
Wow.
In front of the audience.
Illigrab is apparently a immortal? That's interesting.
So you ain't gonna do nothing at all. That it?
Hey, I've done plenty. I convinced Elbar to skip the torture and make your death as physically painless as possible. Just a little whoosh and a crack, and that's it. End of story. It won't hurt half as bad as the time Aina squeezed a potato out of your neck, I promise.
Boss! Oh, that's right. Darn it, it's about time to work. I gotta tell her I can't make it today. You know if she's headed off to the forge yet? I don't want her seeing me like this.
That, my boy, is precisely why we need to get this over and done with. I don't want to imagine what would happen if she stumbled upon your body hanging in front of the whole plaza.
So get me the hay out of here! Ain't that what friends are supposed to do?
Justice should never distinguish between a stranger and a friend. I would never forgive myself if I gave someone preferential treatment just because I cared for them. You wouldn't want that either, right?
So, if you missed it last time, Tony, at the end of chapter 2, Adder got into a fight with a person who was apparently royal blood, and so because he assaulted a royal person, they're trying to execute him.
Of course I would! Knights are supposed to uphold justice and truth and fairness and all that crap you sold me on, but Lord Snotty Snout here's going and sent me straight to the gallows for fighting off a creep just because he got a fancy name. Does that look anything like justice to you?
No, Adder. And that's precisely why I need Aina by my side until the storm comes.
All right. Noose lined up. Bring that poor sod over here.
Be a good boy now and pass on calmly to your next life, okay? Wherever and wherever you are reborn, you'll have a better life than this. I'll make sure of it personally.
Adder dragged his feet towards the platform once more, climbing the steps with feet heavier than concrete. He steeled his heart in preparation for the overwhelming sight that awaited him. An excited crowd cheering and pumping fists. Sepp was right. Deep, deep inside Adder's mind, in a dark, unexplored corner of his heart, he was almost enjoying his last moments. It was the first time so many people were paying attention to him. They were even being nice to him. Enamored with his hungry public, our dear Adder conceived a plan. He would scream, "Wee!" as he fell. Everyone would remember the boy that went, "Wee!" if the noose failed to kill him for a fourth time. Perhaps the captain of the guard would take pity on him and grant him a pardon. He'd be the talk of the town. Even his heart's missing piece would surely hear about this new folk legend, Adler Neckstrong. But that was strictly a Plan B situation. Plan A was not falling.
Hold up! I ain't survived not one, not two, but 3 falls.
Boop, 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 boop. Resume. Thank you. 3 falls now. What a lucky number, am I right? The 3 must be on my side. That's got to count for something. All right. Okay, back to your originally scheduled voice actors.
Yes. You get a free axe to the neck if you make it to the 5th alive. Now bend your knees this time, will ya?
Yeah, there you go. See, Tony, yeah, they read your mind.
Do I get to say my last words?
You said them thrice already.
Yeah, but what if this is the one time I actually...
The platform disappeared once more beneath Adder's feet, letting gravity do its bidding with the boy. Our protagonist was about to woo those congregate around him with his last impressive vibrato and mock death with his mind-boggling wee skills, when he realized that something had fundamentally changed in his relationship with the noose. In the minutes since the last they'd met, the rope had become a whole lot more attached to his neck. What they had went for passing thirst tries to something more tangible, real. The noose surrounded Adder's neck in a tight embrace and promised to never let him go, as it pulled him back to its side.
Oh, now you've done it! Look at the poor thing! He's suffocating! This isn't what we agreed on at all! I was promised a swift death!
Then go and snap his neck yourself. I've got other people to kill today.
Don't worry, Adder. I'll file a complaint in the city council later today. Your suffering shall be avenged.
Great.
Adder's most loyal fans started booing and insulting the executioner as he casually walked away. Those less devoted among the public simply decided to let it go and enjoy the usually harmless family fun provided by the gallows. Alas, this wasn't meant to be the last we'd hear from Adder. Like a sun rising from the north, a pair of gleamy, polished antlers charged into the scene at breakneck speed, or at a hefty pace, at the very least, to give the onlookers something to appreciate the magnificence of said rack.
Ah, there you are, still alive and writhing. Gods, you are a far more bizarre sight up close than any nightmare my mind could have devised. Lowlier yet than the lowliest scum.
No, I was talking about earlier when I said, Illigrab told Adder, you mortals, so I was assuming that Illigrab was immortal. Right now, Adder is, he's hanging out, for sure. The rope's supposed to snap your neck on the way down, and you're not supposed to hang out and suffocate.
Elbar, can you at least have the decency to let the boy die in peace?
There's been a change of plans, Tree. Nobody is dying just yet. Gather the witnesses and pull the noose off this jester. We shall hold a public trial for him.
Okay. I mean, yes, of course. Color me leafless, Elbar. This is a first for you. So, when and where should we hold the trial? Should I go ahead and call the Bards Guild to spread the news?
Gods, no! What matter of nonsense are you spouting? The last thing I need is more beggars and ruffians loitering around. I demand we hold the trial right here, right now.
So, we're keeping it small and personal, I see. Nice and quiet.
Hey, Ramir.
No, seriously, do you understand how the concept of public trial works?
I just have to convince a bunch of peasants that I'm not some sort of despotic tyrant, right? That's a cinch, as the commoners say.
Oh, fantastic. Why don't you go ahead and convince them that I'm not a tree while you're at it? I'm sure you'll... Oh, sorry, lad. I forgot I wasn't dealing with Red for a second there. One unloosening coming right up.
Adder fell to the ground immediately. He took a hand to his neck as he tried to stand up, panting desperately for breath.
All right, babe, he's not dying anymore. There's nothing to be squeamish about now. You can come out.
How the hay? Adder thought as his legs tried and failed to separate him from a thin layer of dry mud covering the pavement. Does she always run into me when I'm dragging my face to the ground? His answer arrived in the shape of a sly smile and a discreet look of superiority.
Look alive, maggot! You are in the presence of royalty! This is Jasif of Bassacursed, heir to a kingdom forgotten by the ages. Know this, for it is by her magnanimity and her magnanimity alone that you haven't yet drawn your last breath.
You give me far too much credit, Sir Askadath. I simply didn't want to live with the death of this poor Hayseed on my conscience.
Yes, well, it will be on my conscience if he doesn't die today. So don't keep your hopes up.
Our nearly reborn boy dared to look up again, only to find Sep's deep blue eyes pulling him closer like a magnet. What Adder first considered a product of his lonely imagination soon proved to be a very tangible reality. Trembling and bound to the ground and under Elber's heavy hoof as he was, he still couldn't peel his eyes off hers. Why is she here? No. How'd she find me? No. Why is she with him? 1,000 questions piled up in Adder's unoxygenated brain, making him feel like his head was about to explode.
So many thoughts, and you can't even spare one miserable "thank you for saving my life"? Really? Where have you left your manners, Adder?
Her voice rang in his ears, loud and clear, but Elbar remained none the wiser to her sharp words. The realization fell on Adder's mind like a boulder. His thoughts were no longer his alone.
I heard you. I heard that just now.
So what? I want you dead! I can say that as many times as I want to. I do not need to hide my intentions from you, do I?
So, for those of you who weren't here for Chapter 1, they can kind of read each other's minds, sort of, and communicate with some sort of, like, telepathy kind of thing.
Do I, ear grab?
You should at least pretend you're willing to give him a chance.
Gods have mercy! The trial hasn't even started and it's already driving me up a wall. Let's go, Jasif. This ordeal gets more and more infuriating by the minute.
Good luck with the trial, handsome. You're going to need it.
What was that?
Oh, don't get jealous now. I just wanted to give him a little encouragement in his last moments, that's all. It's common courtesy in my line of work.
I would think it's far more common courtesy to make an exception with the man who attacked your fiancé's brother. Come on, my patience wears thin!
Sip shrugged her shoulders in a nonchalant way as she crossed her hands behind her back, marching with the characteristic strut of a couple of steps behind Alabar. Adder could only watch haggardly as they disappeared among the crowd. A knife had been sunk into his heart, shaped like a word. Like she's gonna get married to Adder, right?
Oh, lad, you sure stumbled into a handful. Don't mind Jasif's little games. She's had a bit of a rough decade.
Brother? Did he just say brother?
Oh, we're changing the topic? Great choice! I definitely didn't want to talk about her either. Brother indeed. Elbar here and your pal Burbith are the only recognized sons of the late Lord Thumar of Askadath. May the three protect his estate where his sons will not.
Say what? How come nobody told me I was punching Lord Snotty's now's brother? Sweet mother of a boiled pea, no wonder he wanted me dead. Pass me the noose. I'm gonna finish the job for him.
Leave that noose alone, lad. I don't know what's gotten into you all of a sudden, but digging up your sense of accountability won't solve anything now. Besides, I doubt Elbar resents you half as much as he claims to. You might have just done him the greatest favor of his life, after all.
What do you mean, favor?
Well, Elbar may be older and wear his family name with pride, but he's, suffice to say that Burbith is the heir to their household by blood right, even though he is widely considered a less than ideal candidate. Lack of horns and all, typical deer business. Once the retainers catch wind of what happened last night, however, well, the banished egomaniac may yet look like a reasonable choice compared to the feeble fawn who can't hold his own in a fight against a malnourished slum dweller. No offense, kid. I'd say I feel bad about Thumar's house, but that's what happens when you're more interested in making fawns than raising them.
Oof.
You take that back this instant! I ain't gonna stand by and hear you spit radish stew about Lord Thumar like it was no big deal. He was nothing like that, you hear me? You clearly didn't know the man.
And you did? What a grand concept! To think that you'd get to know a lord better in 2 decades than I could in 104 years. Tell me, Adder, when was the last time you visited his palace in Corbussuit? Never? Oh, I don't suppose you were pen pals then? Ah, of course. How could I forget Thumar's time in Chanthering? You may have just met him at his best. Old, sad, and remorseful, left to wither away in a fort on the other side of the world. But I sure hope you didn't, because that would have some ugly implications for a soldier.
Adder's somber expression finally put an end to Illigrab's retort. A life mediating in conflicts had turned Illigrab into a peaceful man that treated words with respect. He could measure them precisely and know how much distance they would travel if spoken. He knew that he'd gone a few leagues too far this time. Coming back would be a challenge.
Come on, Adder! It's just you and me here! You don't have to hide it anymore. This was all part of yet another one of your little far-fetched plans to become a knight. Am I right?
That ain't none of your darn business, Eligrab.
Ow. That's okay. You're still mad about the whole throwing you in prison thing, the execution, and... I get it! Right, we still have to make sure that you don't die! I'd better go round up the witnesses! Here, keep the water.
Illigrab hurriedly shuffled away from the scene, leaving Adder alone to contemplate his choices. Though alone would hardly be the correct word here. There was someone watching the roe deer 1,000 times more intently than any of the audience gathered around the gallows. Far up in the battlements of the walls that surrounded the sook, 2 purple gleams stalked his every move. The observer scurried through the shadows, trying to find the optimal route to sneak into the scene. It couldn't be done haphazardly. The crowd was an enemy far too terrible. Just imagining the formless mass of eyes sinking into her skin chilled her to the bone. Adder looked like he was hanging on just fine, and in any case, pun intended, a mere rope and a 1-story fall wouldn't be enough to take out the deer she had chosen as her apprentice, with or without the goddamn giant tree man's help. Her eyes shifted towards a lonely guard posted towards the plaza in a long stretch of the rampart. Taking him out in a loud enough manner and throwing his body in the plaza for everybody to see would be a perfect distraction. How to avoid killing him in the process, though, was the question Adder would have brought to her attention. To be fair, there would be others, such as, "Did he deserve that?" or "What about his family?" But moral dilemmas were hard, and her personal censor didn't have to know. Silent feet advanced towards the guard. Our morally ambiguous assailant raised her hand against her unsuspecting victim, poised to turn the guard's helmet inside out. The hammer struck with a sound thunk, crumpled the steel in such a way that it looked like tin. Ina took a couple steps back as her thoughts began lurching against each other. It crumpled like tin because it was tin, and there was only a smith in the whole city making custom orders of fake tin armors. With eyes wide as platters, she struck the helmet once again, and again and again and again. She battered against him, and yet the guard refused to react to this brutal attack like he was supposed to. He didn't fall forward or plunge down to the plaza. He didn't crumple to the ground like a bedsheet. He didn't gasp or scream or bleed to his death. I'm guessing it's an armor rack. He didn't even have the decency to turn around before speaking.
You must be the one called Aina.
Basaktet. Ancient Basaktet. Older yet than the one every barman once knew. Old and rough, with words that stumbled from ear to ear, unsure if they had ever been spoken, for they were just directed at one far too great for them. His words masked the sound of a shuffled feet until too late. A newcomer lunged at her before she had a chance to turn and face them.
Aina must not reach the deer.
Ina tried to jump back and forth, struggling to wiggle her head out of the powerful arm that had her in a headlock. The nature of her targets had never been a concern as far as she could think back, but her instinct told her it mattered now more than ever. The creature restraining her threw its head back, and as soon as a high-pitched sound filled the air, to the uninitiated it would seem nothing more than a fateful than a minstrel blowing on a flute, or perhaps a sheet snapping against the wind. A dozen other guards, posted throughout the walls, turned their bright eyes towards her, but none of them began moving.
You know, this wasn't exactly what I had in mind when I told my crew that I wanted our reunion to bowl you over. But you've got to admit that a hostile takeover is just our kind of surprise party.
Ina's eyes twitched with every word. She looked up, finding a new bright row of teeth above her.
Don't hold it against me, sis. We're just following orders.
So
We
you
will
have a
now
sister.
commence the
Uh-oh.
trial of one Tanthurian refugee, Addison, son of Gerfaz, hailing from the now extinct ravine of Olus. Before we start, I'd like to remind you all to mind the pitchforks, keep your fawns by your side at all times, and please refrain from throwing rocks. Addison has been accused by Sir Elbar of Askadath, son of Thumar, of making an attempt on the life of his liege, Lord Burbeth of Askadath, son of Thumar, with whom he shares a father, but not,
Mother, half-brother, son of a maid! They don't need to know our goddamn life story! Get to the point already!
My guess is that they're like some sort of foreign army. Like, it looked like that person was like a canid character, a canine.
Ahem! The Imperial Edict of Estates and Privileges dictates that any commoner accused of a crime against a noble house, be it in their own lands or in a foreign province, shall be disposed of as the highest-ranking member of the affected family sees fit. In an auspicious and entirely unexpected subversion of this law, however, Sir Askadath has decided to hold a public trial for this peasant. Addison will be tried and judged instead by the city of Heirloom as a whole, against which he has committed the following additional crimes: unlicensed mendicancy, unlicensed smithery, unlicensed rivet peddling, street fighting, destruction of property, unlicensed reparation of said property, collaboration with a known Sevi, public drunkenness, and peeing on my leg that one time he was drunk. How do you plead against these charges, Addison?
I plead.
Innocent! Innocent!
Mr. Bard?
Oh, Hirab.
Oh, good gods, guard my toes! I didn't think I'd make it on time! I heard the words execution and one-eyed and I feared the worst! But you're here! You're fine! As fine as only you can be! Oh, my sweet cockeyed horn-eating ladder!
So, yeah. This is the character that I thought was, in Winds of Change, but it's not. It's a different voice actor.
Don't you dare worry me like that again, you dumbass! You are going to give me a heart attack one of these days!
Bard, I don't know what to say. Look, I really appreciate the thought, but,
Yes, you can apologize all you want later. We have more urgent matters to attend to now. Like your sudden bout of frontal nudity. Where did your stupid cape go? One night in jail and you're coming back with tattoos? Haven't I taught you anything at all?
Who's that scraggly singing poodoo capering around with a hat stuck to his magnificent horns, Eograb?
Oh my. Illigrab contemplated his feet wistfully, combing to the ground in search of the right words to define 30 years of history buried beneath the pavement. Gyoff keenly skipped this preamble.
I am no poodoo, my lord. I'm just short, which is sadder. My name is Gyoff, son of Igai. Yes, that Igai. And I am Addison's herald, manager, landlord, and lawyer. Kindly ignore anything this lumbering psychopath may say about me, Sir Askadath. Not content with having my father killed unjustly and destroying my life, this backstabber seeketh to get rid of my best friend as well!
I'm only letting you stay with Ada if you promise to keep personal grudges and slandering comments to yourself, Yoff. That goes for you too, Sir Askadath.
Illigrab wiggled his mustache nervously as he turned his face away. A perfect chance to strike. Yoff didn't waste any time doing vocal warm-ups. He jumped straight into the scene, dragging Adder's oblong head under his armpit like a solid piece of evidence.
So what has this hapless backwater haven of peace done to deserve a sentence as ostentatious as attempted magnacide? Was the sight of his hunched neck and his deformed hands such offense on Sir Askadath's eyes that he longed for a quick death?
Ada punched Sir Askadath's brother, Lord Burbith of Askadath, in the face.
I need a second to review the case with the defendant. What were you thinking, you recalcitrant brute?
Nothing! I mean, I didn't do it just because I felt like it. That nutcase was obsessed with Dana. He wanted to prove she was a golem or something, so he pulled out a knife and he pointed it at me, so I ran away. But then he began cutting his robes, so...
He began cutting in his robes, so what? What? Aina is a golem, Adder! Nothing but a puppet made of metal and marble. She moves with magic. She could have eaten that knife if she wanted.
She could eat knives for breakfast every day if she wanted, and I'd still stand up for her anyway, because she's the best boss in the world, and nothing else matters here.
I go to bed thinking that you've finally gotten over your onanistic delusions, only to find that you've lost your mind overnight. You can fool yourself, but not me, Adder. I know you were just afraid of letting him show you what her insides look like.
I'm gonna show you what your insides look like if you don't shut your yapper this instant, Yoff.
You dare threaten me? Me? The deer that took pity on you and fed you and found you a job when you didn't even have a corner to crawl into and die? The deer that loves you like only your mother could? You turn on me over a stupid piece of...
Are you done over there?
Oh, I'm done with this golem humper, all right?
Great! Then let us proceed with the testimony of the first eyewitness. Soonerall of the Lucky Bastard, if you please.
The old woman coyly walked towards the center of the growing circle of attendees. She nodded respectfully towards Illigrab, and then made a small curtsy with her apron.
Oh, 3. I saw it, sir. I did see it with my own eyes. I watched that blonde hornless fawn nearly get his snot punched off his face by Adder here, no less. Just when you think you've seen everything in this city.
Could you describe your relationship with the defendant, miss?
Oh, it's nothing like that, sir. Adder's just a client. One of my favorites, too. So poor, and yet so honest for lying as much as he does. Nothing like that little fiend Gyoff. Yes, Adder is such a good boy that not one day had I seen him mad. Not one. Till last night, that is. Goes to show you never know with his ilk. Some screw must have come loose in that thick skull of his. I'm telling you, sir. It's all that butting heads business they do.
Huh? Did you hear that, peasants? This stag is clearly out of his wits. He's a danger to us all.
Elbar, wait until your turn to throw baseless accusations. Soonerall, try to recall, please. Did Ada really explode all of a sudden? Or was there something else affecting his reaction?
Well, I didn't want to assume it would be something bad, but they did babble a little before that. Lots of fancy words thrown around. Scared the clients away from my tavern faster than Gyoff's music could. But I can't really help you there. It all flew right over my head.
I couldn't get half of what he was saying either, but that don't matter here, man. Tell him what happened then. And tell him how he digged and drew a sword at me.
Oh, there you go, making up tall tales again. That was no sword, 'twas just a knife. If only that stupid, stubborn Stumpy Horns hadn't...
Ms. Barkeep's mouth opened and closed slowly as words failed to take form in her mind.
Resume your testimony at once, woman! It happened last night, not last week!
Sir, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I forgot what the blonde boy did after that.
Ms. Barkeep's voice became nothing but a whisper as she finished testifying.
A senile bartender and a ravenous street shrub gone mad? This trial couldn't get any more pointless if it tried! Are you all convinced now? Am I allowed to put an end to this torment?
Elbar, that's not how trials... Actually, never mind. Sunero was the only eyewitness, Burbeth is still knocked out, and Aina is thankfully...
Aina! The beast! That's it! That's what tried to hurt the beast! I told him not to! He should have listened to me! They'll come for us, you'll see! The beast will come! Isifik, save us from them!
Oh.
Wow. I knew she was crazy to hire me, but this is a whole new level of insane.
What sort of deluded nonsense is this? She seemed fine a moment ago! You dastard! Have you paid this hag to speak in your defense?
With what money?
You call this a defense? She got far too many cobwebs in the attic if she really thinks boss is anything but a dyed dough. Y'all gonna get your eyes checked, darn it!
Who in the name of the Hatsa is this boss of yours now?
The beast! Oh, the beast!
Sunero, please! Come back to your senses! Beasts are nothing but old wives' tales in this day and age. There's no such thing as...
Illigram! Have you seen that beast of mine?
Illigrab's sigh could have been heard from a league away, deeper and louder than the gasps and screeds shared among the mob around them. He gently pushed the barkeep aside after wordlessly reassuring her that everything would be okay.
Well, look what feat has decided to snake its screens out of its hole! You all know him, dear jury! The last merchant of Basaksarat! Just the calcified Barhan skeleton we needed in this freak show!
Put a padlock on that crap hole you call a mouth, or I'll stitch it shut for you, Kyoth!
Try all you want to scare me with scatological threats, Furtok! I know deep down you are always happy to see your godson!
So happy that if I had eyes, I'd pull them out of my skull again just to avoid seeing you! Now move before I move you, Scullion! The sun would rise and fall twice before I was done insulting you and that stuttering mumble crust you foisted on me!
Can someone please tell me why in the name of Baitatse and all the gods both big and small are we letting a witch walk in like this?
This witch is the father of the absent eyewitness, Your Grace! So perhaps she can share a little insight on the whereabouts of the only creature in this kingdom that could have a shot at saving the defendant.
Didn't you just hear me, you earless squeaker? That's what I'd like to know. I don't care what that little vandal does with her knights, but she didn't even bother coming home to light at the forge today.
Say what? Aina wouldn't skip a day of work if her life depended on it. Something's gotta have happened to her.
Calm down, you two! Look, Red, Aina and Adder went out for a drink last night at my expense. Your daughter had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction, so Adder was a gentleman and lent her his scarf. And then he decided to punch feudalism in the face while he was at it. Wherever she is, she's not here, so why don't you go and wait for her in the temple, hmm? I'm sure she'll come back sooner or later, as usual.
Not so fast, tumbleweed! I have some words for this daughter Solier first! How dare you take Aina to a watering hole without my permission? If anything's happened to her, I'm gonna kick you so hard you'll have to wear your balls as a bow tie!
Well, darn, patron. You better hurry up or I ain't gonna have no neck to time around.
What are you babbling about, you ragabash? Drag your sorry tail here and help me look for my daughter at once!
My boy Adderdim would gladly accompany you on your deliria, but there's a minor snag in the way. They're trying to hang that ungrateful lump of barely cohesive musculature you call an apprentice.
And that's it? You weak-livered milk drinker! What kind of excuse is that? These ruffians try to calcine me once a week, and you won't see me complaining!
See, Adder? This is why I like hanging out with Brett. He never takes the whole execution thing personally.
So now you want me to look at him, huh?
This is what I get for trying to lighten up the mood.
Are you all trying to make a fool out of me? Stop disrupting this trial at once! I swear by Tet that if you don't put an end to this grotesque parade, I'll skip the protocol and cut this idiot's neck myself!
What is he being accused of, anyway?
Punching a noble in the face and working for you, mostly.
What? Are you listening to yourself? This idiot couldn't hit a Magadar in the ass with a reverb fiddle!
Finally, someone with a lick of sense. So, you agree there must be a logical explanation for his recent behavior, right? Such as magic, for example.
Logic.
Come on, Pertalk. Why don't you tell the audience how you used your spooky, stuffy wizardry to cast a spell on Adder?
You really think if I still had the power to make anyone do anything, I'd let these dunces treat me like they do?
Oh, come on, old geezer, play along! It's not like they could try to kill you any more than they already do!
I'm not saying there wasn't magic. I'm saying I wasn't the one who did it.
The merchant raised one of his bony fingers towards the crowd.
I'd recognize the stench of a death if 1,000 leagues away! And this place reeks! Don't try to hide yourself now!
After a few uncomfortable glances, the makeshift jury segued into two groups. At the end of the path formed between the two stood Elbar, flabbergasted. The captain of the guard needed a few seconds to realize that this was not about him, and stepped sideways, revealing a red-haired gazelle standing rather conspicuously against the crowd.
Stop with your pretense, crone! You can't possibly be talking about her! This is my...
Sep?
Who's this Sep you speak of? This is Jasif, as the witch said! Princess of...
Princess? Is that what you're going by now? Ha! Whatever happened to calling yourself queen? Was the throne too small for Her Majesty's ass?
If you could eat all that envy, Giov, perhaps you would have a butt to sit on.
Whoa, hold up! Hold up right there till my head stops spinning! You too!
Unlike a certain orange parasite, I don't have time to sit around stuffing my face all day. Indulge in hedonism all you want. It is work that shapes the man. Though I guess round is a shape after all.
Big words for someone that looks like a deer sawn in half.
Funny you should mention size when you look like two gazelles glued together. Fat ass!
Imp!
Adder had to grab Giov's tail and pull him to stop him from heading off into the audience, wielding his awl as a club.
Oh, I knew this would happen. Should have gotten rid of Geoff as soon as I saw him.
So you're telling me that you, the horned mushroom, and Jasif or Giuseppe or whoever she is now, knew each other? And you didn't breathe a word?
I thought it had become obvious when he accused me of having his father executed and ruining his life. Though, honestly, I shouldn't say accused. I am guilty. But so was Igai, I'm afraid. To think Geoff would go to such extents to fight for his father's name.
That's on him, not you, you sappy pine. That boy ruined his life betting on all the wrong numbers.
Don't feel bad, Illigrab. You hanged a murderer as far as anyone else is concerned.
This is why I ran away from home, you bunch of traitors.
Their heavy words vanished one by one until only silence remained.
I was supposed to obtain answers in this trial, damn it, not questions! Why are these people calling you Sep over and over? Are you truly Jasif or not?
Of course course I am. I was born a Jasif, and as Jasif I live. Though I was known as Omaseptut for a few years before I was free to take the name I deserved. These two are merely family friends bent on resisting inertia and clinging to the idea of the child I was. This changes nothing between us, Sir Askadath. My role remains the same. I am Jasif, brought from the brink of oblivion in the sands of Basaksarat to be raised in the Desert Rose, while I wait to build my kingdom anew.
That's the story her mother used to tell us anyway.
You know, furries have a thing with nicknames, right?
Remember when Thar would call us over to have
Aliases.
dinner with the whole family? Oh, those were the days.
Enough! Is there anyone in this trial who hasn't seen you in diapers?
Me. That'd be me. This buck's just as confused as the rest of y'all here.
Yeah, I'm sure this bed swerver's seen her with far less than that.
Now, Red, let's not jump to conclusions.
Adder is a proper southern deer and my best friend, while at that. And the only girl he's ever dared fantasize with is that painted rock you call a daughter. I can vouch for the fact that he has never, ever in his life said anything about spending a night with a gazelle.
Mm-hmm. Geoff pulled Eller down by the noose.
And much less this one in particular. Right, Adder?
Still water runs deep, you little truant.
Oh, come on, patron. Look at me. I mean, listen to yourself. Who'd ever want a deformed buck like this one here? Hands like a shovel, face like a shoe. If you saw me naked, you'd know there's always someone better to do.
Nice rhyme.
Speaking of better things to do, I'm sorry for interrupting our little dainty family reunion, but this will get long if we don't hurry it up. May I remind you all what we're trying to achieve here?
Shut it, Plant! I wish to hear what this old fogey has to say about those two first.
I'll be brief.
Brief was the blow to the Brief was the blow the red man delivered upon Adder's stomach. The boy curled over his cane, displaying the burns that ran across his chest and shoulders, clearly for all to see.
She did this!
I'm sorry. I did what? Hit him with a cane? Order you to hit him for me? What are you accusing me of exactly?
Don't play dumb with me, daughter of Thar! You know fully well that you have branded my property as your own!
Employee. The word is employee when you're talking about a person. Already gone over this, Red. Indentured servitude was abolished 4 centuries ago.
Not in my temple! And you're lucky that's the only corner of the city where my edicts remain! If we were still in Basaksarat, I'd have this girl's palms splayed and all the windows in her house shut so she couldn't conjure a single ember again!
Conjure? As in spells?
Forget the Sandfur! Burn her! Burn them both!
Cease these senseless accusations at once!
Weren't you the one who wanted to bring magic into this? Here's your magic! This shameless broad has been pawing at my daughter's apprentice for quite a few moons now. She could have been using him for anything she wanted.
Red, I hope you realize you're making some very serious accusations. Lethally serious. Do you have any proof to accompany them?
You have the word of a Sephi, and that was worth more than 1,000 not back in the day.
I'm afraid we don't have any foreign exchange consultants around, so I'll need to see some factual evidence.
Forex trading, baby.
That much I can't do, old Fern. Be my eyes. What does the brand look like?
The mob became a single whispery unity, congregated around Illigrab. The tree man nodded and hummed for a few seconds.
After much deliberation, the jury has decided that the brand seems to be, citing textually, a hand, either a young deer's or a doze, or a barhans. You realize we can't condemn her with such a big error margin, correct?
You're telling me this clumsy scamp didn't even bother making a proper pattern? You idiots! Do the sensible thing and put her hands on the marks!
Adder and Sepp exchanged a brief look.
I'd sooner take a bath in the sewers than touch that flea bag. Who knows where it's been?
Oh, yeah. I'm so full of fleas, they call me Adder the Prancing Deer. And you can catch mange just from looking at me. I got rabies, I got scabies, and don't even get me started on the eye.
Touch that filthy deer, Sepp.
Color drained from Adder's face. He glanced at Sepp desperately, but she had her eyes firmly set on Elbar's.
As you wish, but all you will manage to prove is that he's starved for touch.
Sepp advanced gracefully through the crowd, looking so keen as she walked that she could have fooled anyone into thinking she was taking a stroll through her garden instead of walking her way towards Adder. His mind raced as she approached. He thought about what he would say to her if these were his last words. He thought about how much he wanted to headbutt all of his acquaintances. Actually, that was all he could think about at this point. Sepp had, thankfully, far more poise than he did. She didn't spare a word for him when she reached him. She merely took a finger to her chin and ran her eyes up and down the deer in front of her, acting like she had never seen him up close before. Adder pretended to return the favor.
You like what you see, ma'am?
His fake confidence wavered at the end, breaking the effect ever so slightly. But it was enough. The public reacted with gasps and slight disgust, while Sepp shot a knowing smile in his direction.
I'm afraid you're too tall for my taste, or my reach for that matter. If you could get on your knees for me.
Sepp extended her hands towards his shoulders as Adder took a knee, leaving them staring at each other in a most ceremoniously naming pose.
Think of something!
Adder heard Sepp's plea clearly before she seemed to be the only one. The buck nearly smiled to himself, knowing perfectly well what she meant. As far as the crowd was concerned, the gazelle remained perfectly calm and still, but in Adder's mind she was speaking volumes with only the slightest tilt of her head, and the way she clasped his shoulder. Adder forgot that there was a world outside her eyes. Feeling only the touch of her hands and her voice pass through his head, she sounded anxious and bidding. But for some reason he couldn't bring himself to care. Her warmth was all he needed. Booming loud words filled Adder's head, covering Sepp's thoughts like a thick paste, until it was impossible to hear her voice anymore. Adder tried to hold on to the whispers that remained distraught, but it was for the naught. He had to wake up and listen.
Uh-huh. What was that?
Adder only realized that Sepp had pinched his shoulders over and over, trying to get him to snap out of it when he saw Illigrab's doubtful face hovering above his.
I said that her hands seem to match, though, again, that's hardly conclusive. It would be wrong to assume this young woman dabbles in sorcery just because she's a gazelle. We can't forget, however, that a known Sephi is accusing her of magically influencing Adder in some way. And it would seem that the boy is a little too, affected by her proximity to properly present his testimony.
I told you he looked desperate.
I will only ask this once, Umaseptut Jasif, daughter of Thar. What is your relationship with the accused?
Well, what do I say?
You're asking me?
No, Adder. All I'm asking you right now is to shut your snout and let the lady talk while you get your own ideas in order.
All right. Thinking with my mouth shut. Thinking for real hard. Hold up! Why are you leaving the excuses to me? You're the smart one here. You think of something.
Haven't you been paying attention? I was practically raised by these idiots. They'll know I'm lying.
You want to tell them the truth then?
That is not an option.
Miss Jasif, if you please.
Then don't lie. Just make the truth prettier than it should be. That's what I do every time.
And how am I supposed to do that when I don't even know what the truth is?
This ain't no philosophical question. Just tell me, what are we supposed to be?
Nothing!
That's a lie. Give me a truth, but better.
Well, we are, what are we? 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 What are we?
So, what are we?
I'm a gazelle. You claim to be a deer, but honestly, I'm not all that convinced you aren't actually the personification of a tuber.
No, I mean, what are we? As in, what's going on here? You know, you and me and you, you know?
Adder began making gestures that would have looked far more ridiculous than obscene with normal hands, never mind his.
You're asking if I would be mad if you were to see someone else.
You're trying your darnest to avoid the question.
Excuse me. I didn't realize this was an interrogation. No, Adder, I don't care what you do with your free time, as long as you come over when I want you to. Will that be all?
Nah, I ain't buying that. Come on. You're really trying to tell me that you wouldn't get jealous if I walked up to a doe and hugged her and kissed her and asked her to marry me? Not even a little bit?
No, and to be honest, the possibility hadn't even crossed my mind.
Right. Of course. I mean, I get it. Yeah. You ain't gotta worry, 'cause I'm the toothpick to your 7-course meal.
Is that some sort of attempt at an analogy?
Oh, no, ma'am! I'd never try that again without your permission! I'm just saying. I'm like a used toothpick. Here for you and no one else. 'Cause I'll gross everyone else out.
Oh, I see. Emotional chantage. Is that what this is about? What an unbecoming habit for a stag as handsome as yourself. The nerve you have, trying to hear me say how amusing and kind you are, not to mention brave and resilient. That's certainly not how I'd expect my favorite to behave.
So, I'm your favorite, huh? Hold up. You mean there are others?
Oh, don't be silly. There can only be one favorite.
No, I refuse. No matter how you insist, I can't just choose one. You are all my favorites.
It doesn't work like that, Mom. You have to pick one.
Why? Can't I love all my children equally?
It's not love, it's law. Illigrip says that it's the parents' duty to choose one child to favor as the heir of their estates to prevent a division of power and infighting among their descendants.
I need to have a word with Mr. Buntalos about his idea of age-appropriate lessons.
The doe's coattails meandered behind her as she made her way through the pergola. Sepp followed them closely.
He also said that I don't need to worry about any of that because I'm not a doe like you. Is that true, Mom?
The trail of ghostly silk came to a sudden halt. The doe turned around to lift the tiny gazelle in her arms.
You know what, Sepp? You are my only daughter. So that technically makes you my favorite daughter, doesn't it?
What does technically mean?
Kind of.
That means I can technically keep my room?
No, dear. You are destined for far greater things. You will have your very own palace when you're older. Much, much bigger than this one.
But I don't want to go. I want to stay here with you. I don't need a big room. It can be small. The smallest one.
Holy horns! This is your room? For real? I didn't know Barhan fortune tellers lived in places this fancy. I mean, look at that! This place is bigger than my whole house! I gotta share it, too.
A mere fortune teller could never afford it, of course. If gaze reading was the extent of my skills, I wouldn't be able to afford wasting time with indecisive paupers like you.
I ain't got a clue what you called me just now, but that's all right, 'cause here, I'll let you in on a little secret, ma'am. You've been fooled through and through. This was all a test.
A test, So you mean to tell me all that sobbing about stealing your first kiss was just a lie?
No friggin' chance, ma'am. I ain't letting a creep like you off the hook so easy now. But since you got far bigger creeps than yourself hollering down your window, I decided to heroically risk my own body to make you company. Till I'm sure you're safe and sound.
And of course, my little bribe had nothing to do with this decision.
Yep. I mean, no, not at all. I was just trying to, see if you could really read minds. Figure out my true intentions while I tried to resist your delicious pastries.
My bad. How could I forget the legendary cunning of the roe deer?
Hey now! Don't think you could get cute with me just because you got me to come here after all. I'm still mad at you. Real mad.
Oh, honey, come on. You can't stay mad at your poor brother forever.
He is no brother of mine.
What would Thar say if she saw you two fighting like that?
She can't say anything anymore, can she? Mom? Mom? Ah! Mom!
You didn't think I would let you catch me with my guard down twice, did you?
Adder bolted up, his mind in a daze, and his face covered in sweat. He felt like a volcano had erupted in his heart, sending his whole skin ablaze from antler to hooves. But that wasn't the most distressing part. Something was grabbing his shoulders, something far more powerful than himself, something bright enough to show through his shut eyelids. He had lived through this once before and came out scarred, but his body refused to learn. Once more, the temptation to look at something his mind wouldn't understand overwhelmed him. He didn't find an angry fireball watching over his limp body this time, however, but a familiar pair of cold blue eyes looking down on him.
Sep! You were fine just now, but also I was there for a while too. But then there was this doe and a door, and then it got real scary and...
You need to find a healthier outlet for those voyeuristic tendencies of yours, Adder.
I didn't catch a word of that.
Sep shoved her face so close that her horns touched Adder's.
If you keep peeping through every crack you find, someone's going to end up poking your eye out, you creep.
The strength of her grip intensified for a moment before letting go, putting an end to the unnatural flush Adder felt all over his body. Both his skin and his thoughts were cooling down little by little as she walked away.
You calling me a creep? You? I hate to break it to you like this, ma'am, but I'm precisely the one that needs a lesson on keeping his hands to himself the most in this.
Adder finally noticed the world around him. An endless mass of fine sand extended in all directions, shining bright against the blue sky above. The dunes of Basakar, my tongue can't pronounce that word for whatever reason right now, had been a nameless antagonist in the tales of grandiloquent traveling merchants would share as they stopped by Adder's village, but he had never thought he'd seen the desert in person. The land wasn't completely barren, though. Columns of alabaster rose from the ground, forming magnificent colonnades, just as those that decorated the temple of Hirab back in Illyrium. And in the center of it all stood Sep, watching from a throne that sat in the nearest point between derision and amusement.
Where are we? No. When are we?
You are right here and right now. Don't change the topic.
Whoa, hold up! This ain't no memory, is it? I'm thinking. I can hear my thoughts!
Congratulations on your newfound powers of introspection.
Powers of what?
No, Adder, this isn't a memory. This is something far, far more personal than that. I guess you could say that you are standing inside my mind right now. Though, a more correct way to put it would be saying that you are trapped.
Say what? No way you could do that!
Of course I can. I can do whatever I want inside my own mind. And as the ancient Bezakted adage prays, an open door is not an invitation. You showed up uninvited, and so I have decided to lock you up like the burglar of secrets you are.
Nice try, but I got enough of these inspection powers to tell you're trying to use my tricks on me. I ain't so scared of you. I'm just gonna eat any half-baked magic-y radish stew you cook up, ma'am.
See? Your advice is useless if I don't know the whole truth first.
You don't know what happened either?
I can only speculate as I try to piece together an explanation. My best guess so far is that our little bonding experiment worked much, much better than I anticipated it would.
Adder clutched his burns.
Bonding sure is a fancy way to call what you did to me.
The fact that you remember enough to be bitter proves that I did indeed manage to find a relatively harmless way to circumvent the curse. I've made a historical breakthrough, and you should be thanking me for my efforts.
Oh yeah, thanks for the tattoos and all the nights I spent hollering down your window without an answer. What did you fix my mind for if you were just planning to act like you didn't know me? You like seeing me hurt like that?
Yes, making you grovel is definitely always a plus. But I'm not so cruel as to plan something like that in advance. It was more of a spontaneous decision, a change of heart, if you will. I realized that I quite enjoy tormenting cowards.
I ain't no coward, I was just scared. You can't blame me for running away. You set me on fire!
Did you spend a whole moon ablaze?
Adder looked up at the gazelle looming over him. He realized he was trying to win a conversation on a topic he didn't even want to recall. The weight of his anger turned to hurt under the pressure of her stare.
Where are you going?
I'm gonna go find the exit and get so you don't gotta see my ugly mug ever again.
You do realize that the part about being locked up wasn't a lie, correct? This is my core, my retreat, the place where I go when it looks like the sky is about to fall on me. No one should be able to reach this deep within someone else's mind, and especially not you.
I found my way out of deeper pits, no worries. Only thing I care about is getting out of here before it's too late.
Late? Really? You think you're going to be late inside a thought? Oh, that's precious. Please explain to me how someone as clumsy as you managed to slip past my defenses, because I seriously can't understand it.
All I'm hearing is blah, blah, blah. Adder's dumb, and I already knew that.
Time is not an objective reality in the same way a rock or your ignorance would be. An hour can go by in a moment when you're having fun, but that same hour can be a torturous eternity for someone in pain. Time lives inside your mind. A good gaze reader knows how to look inwards as much as outwards and use time in their favor. As long as I can keep my thoughts focused enough, time will remain effectively stopped for me and for you, little stowaway. We could potentially have a whole eternity to spend together, provided I don't die of ennui first. Then again, I'm sure you'll figure out a way to keep me entertained. We have a lot to catch up on.
A cup of wine manifested into Sep's hands. She took a sip, grimaced, and poured the rest onto the ground, where it vanished immediately. Then she tried to conjure another.
So, what'll happen to us outside? You know, in the real world?
We'll die one way or another, and no one will shut up about it. A Barhan witch and a one-eyed horn-eater. No, forbidden lovers die in each other's arms as their plot is revealed. Yes, that sounds great. It's very romantic. They'll write songs about us.
Hey, Summer. Sep looked up from her fourth attempt at remembering the taste of a cup of wine.
You look awfully somber for someone who is about to spend an eternity with the most beautiful girl on Dakna and have fame to outlive him for years to come. Isn't this like a dream come true for you, Sir Addersund?
No! And even if it was, it wouldn't be right like this. You're about to die for something you ain't done, and my first reaction was whining because you don't like me instead of trying to do something about it. You sure you want to spend an eternity with a buck like me?
Of course not. All I wanted was to keep you out of my thoughts for the rest of my life. But seeing as how you have made your way into my mind quite literally, I'm afraid I don't have much of a choice. Willful resignation is a skill of its own.
No, ma'am! No one's settling down for Adderson just because they don't think they deserve bitter. There's got to be a way to get out of here and make it out alive. I'll get back to the trial and show them I did what I did because I'm dumb as a bag of rocks and you ain't got nothing to do with it, and...
How stubborn could you get, Adder? Am I not explaining myself properly? Or is it that you don't understand? I always knew you were a simpleton, but I refuse to believe you're this naive.
You got a point there, or are you just itching to insult me?
Elbar wouldn't listen to a nobody like you if it cost him his life. The trial was a farce.
A what?
Sep tilted her head away from Adder, trying to fix a gaze on the empty vastness ahead of them. The sand trembled and bubbled up as it began rising and taking form of a deer and a gazelle.
A trial? What do you mean, a trial?
You said it yourself. Peasants are a brainless lot. We both know that you have more than enough reasons to want that deer dead, but the mob... I'm afraid they will need a little convincing on who to root for when his head rolls.
And why should I care about the townsfolk's opinion? My guards have more spears than they have pitchforks.
Do you really want to give them reasons to make a martyr out of a street shrub? You should be basking in the glory of avenging your brother, but instead they're cheering for him. I get the impression no one seems to appreciate your efforts, Sir Askadath.
They really don't, do they? After all I do for them, all the times I've tried to make it up to Burbeth for my mistakes.
Precisely. You need to show them your better side, so that Burbeth may wake up and finally realize what kind of man his brother truly is.
Your genius never ceases to amaze me, Jasif. I was too blinded by honor to realize that Burbeth's sympathy for the commoners lights my path to redemption. Yes, we shall hold a trial to show my liege how fair and compassionate I am. Munificent, too! I shall dispense a few coins among the crowd before the trial to remind the citizens of my... Askadath's generosity. Their loyalty shall not waver when it's time to cast the verdict. And then I'll present the body to my brother as a gift. Mwah! Perfect! Just perfect!
Grim didn't even begin to describe Adder's expression as the memory dissipated into dust.
I only encouraged your optimism because I found it amusing, Adder, but I'm telling you now, it's hopeless. The balance was tipped from the start.
So what do you want me to do then? Sit on my hands while he sharpens his sword? I won't be happy spending an eternity knowing you're about to get burnt to a crisp or trying to help me.
I wasn't trying to help you, damn it! I knew there was no way you could win. I didn't do this to be charitable. I just wanted to make sure that I could see you face to face one last time and know you mean nothing to me. You don't owe me anything, Adder. I brought this upon myself.
Sep slumped back into a column that rose to cedar. She looked wary and small, trying to fight a battle she knew she would never share aloud.
If you don't want me to stand up for you, then at least I'll stand up for myself just this once. This could be the last chance I get to prove I got a head over my shoulders, Sip.
Do you now?
See, you're fine with this because everyone knows you got your head screwed on right. But if I don't speak now, I'm gonna die being Adder the dumbass. My neighbors will say, "Remember Adder?" And they'll go, "Darn right, ain't never seen a bigger dumbass in my life." And it's my fault, right? Because I let them. I thought if I didn't watch my tongue, I'd end up hanging myself with it. But that didn't make me smarter. That just meant everyone could put words in my mouth and make me dumber than I am. Yo thought Shovel Hands was a soft-spoken boy, but no more. I'm gonna get loud. I'm gonna get louder than ever, so Lord Snotty Snout's gotta listen. Addison, son of a father, ain't never shutting up again, you hear me?
You're really setting the bar high, aren't you? I've heard you talk even in dreams. Where else do you plan to... Hold that thought. Could you really be rambling as we speak?
Sep sat back slowly. Something had changed in her eyes.
I know that face. You got a plan, don't you? That's the Sip I know, smart as a whip and only half as mean. What do you need? Just say the word and I'll get right to it, my queen.
Only half as mean.
That's a great start. But you are going to need more than mere compliments if you want to convince Elbar that you deserve a second chance.
I'm getting mixed messages here, ma'am. You think I got a chance or not? Didn't you just say he wasn't going to listen to a word I said?
And he won't. You could warn him that his head were on fire, and he would refuse to listen to you on the basis of not liking the way you speak. He's more concerned with the envelope than the letter. If you manage to get past Elbar's brashness and appeal to his sensibilities, you'll find that he's hiding a heart under his delicate ego. The magnitude of his emotions is his biggest weakness, and I, of course, happen to know how to stir them better than anyone else.
Whoa there! Don't go getting ahead of yourself now. I don't want you magicking up nobody else's memory again.
As if I had to. There's nothing Elbar loves more in the world than a good tragedy, and you are nothing short of miserable. I'm sure that if you could stroke his ego a little and spin some sad tale, he would call off the trial and pardon you immediately.
Sob story's all you need? Call me Weeper Wailer Adder then! I've done far worse than cry a little, save my butt. I ain't even gonna break a sweat. But that still begs the question, ma'am. Where'd that leave you if it works?
Sep blinked, clearly taken aback by the sincerity of the question. Adder could have sworn he spied the faintest blush form over her cheeks if he hadn't known her better.
As I said, you don't need to worry about me. Elbar will call off the trial before he lets anyone soil my name, or his by association.
Is that right? He sure looks the type who don't need help soiling his anything.
Takes one to know one, I suppose.
Both the gazelle and deer shared a mean, knowing grin.
What do you say we call this even for now? Truce?
Truce. Only until I can get you out of my mind, of course.
Would you kindly show me the way out then?
Could I even? I have an idea of how to get you out of here, but it's kind of a drag, and it's going to take us both quite a lot of mental preparation. I'm getting exhausted just from thinking about it.
Sep crossed her legs in a very calculated fashion. Adder couldn't do maths, however.
What are you willing to do in exchange for my help?
Oh, darn it. You got me right where you wanna, don't you? I've been playing hard to get, but I'm afraid a buck can only fight back for so long. Oh, what the hey? Come on up, you goof off. I'll carry you there.
Sep headed off, seemingly in a random direction, not bothering to look at him twice.
Hey, Sep, I'm not that dumb. I was just messing with you. We could still... Sep, wait up! Don't give me the cold shoulder now! I've missed you too! Sep!
My plan to get you out of here involves a bit of an abstract petition. I need you to follow the trail left by a particularly disruptive feeling. One that has been keeping me up every night since you ran away.
Adder almost opened his mouth to intervene with his version of the story, but he managed to remind himself that he wasn't standing on solid enough grounds to argue.
At first, I thought it was fear. I was afraid that you would summon the guards and tell everyone what happened. I was convinced that my time had come, and I prepared myself to embrace death. But days passed, and no one came knocking on my door.
You really thought I was planning to tell on you like that? I am scared as all get out. A prairie buck could deal with this gal being a mind-reading horn hottie, not a gosh darn friggin' fireball! But that don't mean you stop being you. I'll never let nothing happen to you.
So I saw, now and then, and once my fear vanished, I decided to stop worrying about you and return to normality. I managed somehow. Everything was going better than ever for me, and yet the restlessness just kept growing. Ever since that night, I keep recalling parts of my life that I thought long forgotten. I can't take a single step without second-guessing myself. I fear I'm turning soft, weak. I don't know.
After what felt like hours of walking, their journey came to an apparent end. A pristine marble wall blocked any further advance. It stood tall and proud, looking far more impregnable and solid from afar than any wall Adder had ever seen in the real world. It seemed endless and eternal. Upon closer examination, however, the glamour built from lies and self-importance disappeared. This imposing defense was actually full of breaches and crumbling apart.
I lack the words to describe the change you've stirred within me, Adder, but that hardly matters anymore. All I know is that you have managed to slip past my defenses, and that means it's only a matter of time until someone does it on purpose. I need you to take advantage of my vulnerabilities to find the way back out, and then lead me to it, so I can close it. No one shall get so close to my heart again.
Let me get this straight. The only way out of your mind is making you a worse person, somehow?
I suppose that is one way to put it, yes. Good people don't exactly thrive in the upper crust. That's why I'm closer than ever to power. And you... well, the news suits you just fine.
I don't know, Your Majesty. I get the feeling you're being just the usual amount of ugly to this buck. You sure anything's changed at all?
Don't mistake cooperation for forgiveness, Adder. You deserve my help, not my kindness. I am still terribly mad at you.
Look, I know I messed up, and I messed up a bunch, but you ain't the only one with reason to be angry. You ain't got a clue what it's like to hide a charred chest and a secret like that from all your friends for a moon. I'm just saying, ma'am, if you think you get to be madder and adder, you're...
Time decelerated to a near halt as the accidental pun left Adder's mind, escaped his mouth, and reached Sept's ears. Her lips began trembling, followed by her cheeks. A flush of red covered her nose, and for a second it looked like she would lose their impromptu challenge.
Ahem. As I was saying, your intrusion may yet prove to be a net positive on my life. Show me how to steal my heart, and I will gladly return the favor once we go back to the real world.
But why would you go and leave something so important in these shovel hands? You sure you want me seeing all those memories? I mean, you know yourself really well, right? Can't you just go in there and use them inspection powers to point me to the exit?
Introspection, Adder. And no, self-deception is much stronger than self-help. I'm self-aware enough to know that any attempt at self-analysis would only leave me crawling back into a cycle of self-loathing and make me lose control of both this place and myself.
You forgot any self in there?
Sep's glare made it quite obvious that this was not the time for quips.
I can surmise where my issues lay and point you in their direction once you know what you're looking for, Adder. That's the extent of what I can do without the guidance of another gaze reader, and you're the closest I've seen to one in a decade. Besides, I firmly believe that in the time we've spent together, you have grown to understand me better than anyone else. Not that there was much in the way of competition to begin with.
Adder was, despite all evidence pointing to the contrary, a rather simple boy with simple tastes and simple goals. Psychological journeys to the center of the mind were not exactly his field of expertise.
So, I just gotta take a walk in the slums of your thoughts to find a hole in a wall I can fit through, and then we'll go cry together in front of Elbar so you can get back to your life and I can get back to mine, and we can stay out of each other's hair forever like you wanted. That it?
Yes, but it won't be nearly as simple as you're making it sound. Defenses come in layers, each stronger than the last. I don't remember all the feelings I have locked away behind them, but you will. You will walk away carrying my pain with you.
So it's like, Shrek once said, it's an onion. It has layers.
You need to start treating your powers with the deference they deserve, Adder. A gaze reader can become an impotent witness to a person's worst nightmare, or worse yet, a participant in their darkest hour.
That's a mighty fine reason to be careful, no doubt. But it don't sound all that convincing when you tried to mess with my head the minute you saw me walking down the street.
This and that are two completely different things. I needed to see if you were the deer who helped me. It was important.
So abusing my power is all fine and good long as I can make up a convincing excuse. Gotcha, Teach?
That's not... Ugh! You can't truly be this obtuse.
You're just saying words I can't understand, because you know I'm right.
Stop being a pest and make yourself useful for once, will you? Search around and see what you can find. I have other matters to attend to.
Inside your own head?
No, inside yours, duh. Be gone already.
All right, I'm going. Hold up. Where am I supposed to go exactly? I can't just walk up to a guard and say, "Good evening, sir. Would you kindly point me to the nearest
A guard manifested out of the sound, fully dressed and looking even meaner than the real ones.
Good evening, sir?
Adder didn't even get to formulate his question. A low rumble proceeded, and then an earthquake, turning the sands below his seat into a bubbling mass. Adder ran and jumped from roof to roof as a whole district began growing under his feet, a familiar one at that. The dust finally settled, revealing a detailed recreation of Heartache District, or at least the very part Adder knew best, which could mean only one thing. Our amateur man traveler turned around, finding an otherworldly red mansion standing proudly against all the comparatively discreet houses around it. Adder's found his way back to the Desert Rose, as usual. Contrary to what the uninitiated in Earlam's culture may think, the Desert Rose was most certainly not a house of ill repute. Quite the opposite. It was the jewel crown of the Heartache District, maybe of the whole city. One would never be ashamed to be caught stepping in, for that would mean they had the kind of resources to behold the multifarious dances, magic displays, and general extravagance their usual patrons partook in. Hey, Aiden. Fewer yet would ever dream of ever carrying enough coin in their pockets to afford a sojourn in this multifaceted culture center. Needless to say, it was not the kind of place someone like Adler would ever be allowed to frequent, and by frequent I mean look at it from any distance shorter than 60 steps. He wasn't even allowed to breathe in its proximities, lest he contaminate its air of nobility. Despite their district anti-adder policy, their strict anti-adder policy, however, the guards that usually stood by the main gate didn't seem to mind his presence at all. They looked rather complacent and not all that shabby.
Right. Of course, this is just one of Sep's memories. None of this is real. You ain't here at all. Well, I mean, I guess you're here. You're just not here. So, look, y'all mind if I come in through the front door just this once?
The guards remained impassive. After much deliberation, Adder finally mustered the courage to walk in. The Desert Rose was a marvel from foundations to ceiling, but its main hall was particularly impressive. Tapestries on every column displayed dance steps, while elaborate mosaics drew the palace's namesake's flower over and over in every wall. Men were playing ouds and flutes in the background, making music that didn't make any sound. Fountains of wine, hookah pipes, and beautiful does filled the room, assuaging all the rich deer in Illyrium into spending enough money to fund a small nation. And who knows how much money they were making beyond the common room. The Desert Rose should have been a marvel to behold in every sense, and yet despite all the bustle, the only home Sep had ever known seemed rather dull and lifeless.
You don't care a whole lot for this place, do you?
No answer. The cavernous silence filled the crowded room and sent shivers down Adder's spine. He quickly decided to stop loitering around and head to the first door instead. The familiarity and sobriety of the bedroom area was rather assuring in comparison. It would have been positively awful to snoop around in such a place, so Adder carefully counted room after room until he was sure he'd found his destination. The heavy door opened to reveal a chamber far more impressive than any other alcove Adder's imagination could have conjured. A brief glance was enough to show that it was bigger than Gyoff's home, and times infinitely more exquisite. Despite carpets made up of intricate patterns covered the totality of the ground, from the entrance of the luxurious bed in the center of the room, stopping only before the enclosed balcony. Dozens of cushions lay haphazardly against each other, displaying some sort of mating dance. They huddled in the middle of the chamber, on the corners against the wall, on the bed as well. So many cushions. Adder lacked fingers to count them all. With hands that big, that's impressive. This was, in other words, Sep's room.
Alrighty then, what do you got in store for me? I hope you ain't forgotten we're still in public. Not that I think you're thinking about that, just throwing that out there.
Once more, no reply. The only sound other than Adder's voice was the one produced by a ghostly projection of Sep, using an inked pine needle to fill the pages of a worn-out book. Adder took a few steps around this image of Sep, enjoying his newfound mobility as he studied her factions. Now excited may be a bit too much to describe her, and impatient would be too harsh. She looked, extremely disappointed.
Oh, what's that silly little frown for, dear? Were you expecting the dessert cart instead?
No, our servants have the decency to knock before they come in.
The room became a blur for a brief moment, as the door opened to reveal the silhouette of a doe. The jewelry she wore manifested itself sooner than her face. Adder jumped behind the bed instinctively as he saw the older woman walking in. He had only crossed words with her twice in his life, but that had been enough to engrave Miss Rachel's name in his memory. Yeah, hit that likes, hit the likes, subscribes, and algorithm stuffs, as Ganovo says. Like how it's getting bustling in here. It's nice. A woman with a face that seemed to be perpetually locked in a smile, but it wasn't just a shallow smile, no. Her hatsa remained still like a glass of water. Sep turned her face back to the mirror, watching the scene, determined to look completely unfazed as she discreetly switched the book for a comb.
Is it too much to ask for a little privacy in my room at least?
Privacy? Oh, Deceive! Everything that happens within these walls is private. Privacy is my business, after all. But it's especially my business when the only Barhan dancer in this house decides to disappear right before her first show of the day.
I'm more than made up for it doing that stupid fortune teller sideshow you prepared for me. What else do you want?
What was it indeed? Let's see. Privacy, business, first showing in the morning. Oh, there you go. That's what I wanted to tell you. You missed your new introduction. A fiery princess born among dunes and ruins. The very last descendant of a long and mighty dynasty. Legends say that she was sired by the sun itself under the guise of a gazelle. Dugga, dugga, duck, here come the drums, building up the reveal. We know not her true name, only her legacy. And so we call her by the name she would have been given in times of yore. Everything goes quiet. You step into the flames, and I shout, Jasif, Princess of Fire and Sand! Woo! Ovation! Everybody loves you.
Oh, it's a stage name, okay.
No. Oh no. You didn't just say princess.
I did just say princess. Oh
What? How? No! I can't be a princess? Really? Why don't you go ahead and tell them to call me Sep while you're at it?
no! Dear, I would never. I know how important your stage name is to you, and you know I adore your taste. Jasif is such a great little nickname. So mysterious and exotic and
Profitable.
powerful. Too much, perhaps. I'm afraid the title of queen sounded a bit too inaccessible. Men don't like having their power contested, dear. It's bad for business.
Ah, yes. The ever-thriving business of horn eating.
Well, someone's feeling sarcastic tonight. Are you really sure you're not expecting anyone else, dear? You radiate an aura of longing and solitude and...
That wench told you, didn't she?
I was going to say that you keep your eyes on the window like a grieving widow, but I appreciate your theory too. Care to elaborate on which wench should tell me what?
Why? What would keep me from lying to you if I did? You should go and ask that herd of snitches instead. Someone's bound to tell on me.
Oh, I would, believe me, but your sisters are all very busy at the moment. I know this may come as a surprise to you, but some of us have to do something called work.
Well, I can see where Sep got her scathing and biting attitude from.
Not again, please.
You know when the other girls put on their fancy clothes and go spend some private time with all the well-off deer that come home? That's called working, dear. They get paid for that.
Amazing.
I know! And to think you do the same for free.
The dictionary lacked words to describe the color Sep's face turned.
So what are you going to do if I bring someone over again? Ground me?
Ground me, she says. Jasif, I do miss the times when I could scare you with that, but you're not a little girl anymore, are you? Look at you. You've grown so fast. And so much more than Thar and I could have expected. No wonder you have the whole city on your tail.
Seps instinctively hid her derriere behind her hands, embarrassed. Adder did his best not to follow the motion.
Don't think I don't understand where you're coming from, dear. You're young, you're wild. And I'm not saying that you can't have a little fun, but this is the Desert Rose, not just Thief's charity for handsome, needy souls. I need some profit to keep this whole place running, but you seem determined to remain a living net loss. You know I have my hands tied, don't you? Your mother would curse me from beyond if I let you work here. Not to mention what your brothers would do.
I'm sorry. Do I have more than one brother now?
Well, don't forget that your one and only brother has ears everywhere. If he hears that someone dared put a finger on you, the guards will find a streak of bodies hanged by the hooves in the sewers. And I will be right there to say, I told you.
Adder gulped as he imagined the scene. He had met overprotective fathers and brothers in many of his failed attempts at courting does in his town. But most of the time they just laughed at his horn size and let him be.
Well, it's about time I prepare the next show. Do what you want with your life, but don't forget that you need to start pulling your own weight. If you still can.
Miss Rasha finished her cheeky remark with a slap to Sep's cheek. Not the face one. The one that would have at least left her with some righteous fury and semblance of dignity. The door closed behind Miss Rochelle, but her presence remained long after she left. How long exactly was the amount of time it took for Sep to stick her tongue out at the door?
Yeah, that'll show her.
Sep picked up her book once more as she made her way to the bed, unknowingly accompanied by Adler's restless thoughts.
Good thing you're late.
Adder started to think she was talking directly to him again. The initial scare passed once he realized it was nothing but a stray thought, and so decided to investigate the source of her woes. A deep, dark blue hue covered what little sky could be seen beyond the lattice covering the balcony, and it was only getting more and more intense as the lamp tender snuffed out the ferals one by one.
Oh, I get it. So this is what you wanted to show me, huh? Oh, Sip, I never would have taken you for the sign type.
Adder took a seat by her side, watching her reaction change eagerly as the pebble flew right into the window. Now, distraught as maybe a bit too much to describe her, and apprehensive would be too harsh, she was just being silly. Sep put the book down once more and straightened her silk robe as she walked nonchalantly towards the window. Pebbles kept flying into the balcony and walls, but she was far more interested in messing with her clothes. Her visitor's insistence amused her ever so slightly, but she wouldn't usually let that show.
Oh, come on, Sip. Don't keep a buck waiting while you're here contemplating.
Her night clothes were a bit too tidy for her taste, perhaps if the collar hung looser.
You look darn perfect as always, ma'am. Open the
godforsaken window this instant!
Say what?
Adder's neck twirled over itself with the ugliest crack as his attention swept from Sep to the window.
I know you're in there, damn it! Why are you keeping me waiting?
You're the one who's late, you imbecile. I should just let you scream down there until the guards come looking for you.
Sep looked up, seemingly exchanging glances with Adder for a moment.
But I'm feeling pretty generous tonight.
Sep unlocked the window with a knowing smile and the confidence of a dancer who has played their song successfully 1,000 times. Adder followed, aghast. The silhouette manifested against the lattice, commanding an absolute silence in the street below. Not even the burly fallow deer, expecting her by the pergola, would escape the overwhelming presence of her apparition. This quietude wasn't meant to last, however.
What a strange vision! I see a sun in the night! No. Foolish me, it must be the one they call Jasif, blessing me with her light!
Good lord, man. I guess he has a flair for the dramatic, doesn't he? I mean, you might as well just rip off Shakespeare at this point. Sep barely managed to keep herself from smirking at the sight of the ridiculous mask sitting upon her nightly visitor's enormous snout. In his mind, this truly must be the first conversation he had taken place, but Sep had memorized all the steps at this point. She had rehearsed her show, sold the tickets, and won the crowd dozens of times over.
I am the one they call Jasif indeed. And you? What words should I use for a masked madman screaming in the middle of the night?
Madman will suffice, for I have indeed lost my wits and my mind. I saw you dancing among flames today, and with every move I felt a forbidden passion, setting my heart ablaze. I fear your lovely image has seared into my eyes for all eternity. I have therefore come to announce myself as your most fervent servant and admirer. My sword shall greet the throat of any man that attempts to claim your affections for himself. Princess Jasif.
Elber's new fit of courtly poetry had become a distant echo as Sep took both hands from her to her face.
I'm going to choke that woman in her sleep.
The thought disappeared as soon as it arrived, unheard by anyone except Adder, who mentally patted Sep's shoulder.
So may I have a lock of red hair to remember our affair.
Affair, all right.
You can have my whole tail if it'll make you shut up.
Sep words slipped from her mouth before she could catch him. The whole world froze for a moment as her suitors stood agape. With a single misstep, she found herself nearly falling to the ground and alone in uncharted territory. The music went on, even though she had lost her tempo.
But babe, I wrote this myself! I even had one of my guards follow you to find out which balcony led to your room. Also, my words could reach you. I wanted to pay you a nightly visit. Isn't that romantic?
Dozens of disembodied paragraphs scuttled through Adder's skull, unstopped as Sepp mentally went over all the nightly romance books in her library in panic, desperately hoping to find the right cue to jump back into her little dance.
Ha! You dare speak of romance after exposing your intention to trespass? Sneaking under my window only to make your way into my bed is awfully inept of one that claims to serve me. You may as well just be a common thief.
But how can I be a thief when you have stolen my heart? Do not doubt my word, Jasif. I am no lowly horn-eater. My desires are lacking in lust. It is love I have come to give you.
Is that so? Then leave. Leave at once, and do not come back until you bring proof that you do not wish to steal my affection.
A quest? For your favor! Yes! I shall go and prove my...
Yeah, good night.
The masked deer smirked as he held onto his sword, running off to conquer hearts or whatever it is a captain of the guard does in his spare time. Sepp couldn't have cared any less as she tried to get at... couldn't care any less if she had tried at that precise moment.
Well, butter my backside and call me a biscuit, Sepp. You weren't kidding when you said you got him wrapped around your little finger. I'm almost glad to see I wasn't the only one you played with tales of knights and princesses. Almost.
Sepp was about to lock the window when her eyes caught a glimpse of what looked like a pile of hay attempting to walk away.
That's what I get for talking.
First you eavesdrop on my past, and now you spy on my present. Why, Adder, perhaps you should be the one reading my fortune.
Hey now! That's a load of radish stew. I wasn't listening in. No, ma'am. My pa taught me better than that. I was just taking a stroll around the district and,
Looking for a place to spend your rivets? And here I thought you were the type to take matters into his own hands.
Sepp's words took a moment to sink in. Past Adder pointed at the gazelle and puffed his cheeks up, failing to grasp the proper use of language to reply to her accusation.
Better stop that if you want me to show you what I can do with these hands. Wait, hold up. Not like that. I mean it in the bad way. Like I'm gonna whoop your ass if you don't... Can I get a moment to think this through?
Adder would have remembered the sheer third-person pain of this out-of-body experience and replay it in his nightmares for the rest of his lifetime, and part of the next. Sepp was rather gracious about it in retrospect.
I get the distant feeling you are mad at me.
Mad? Mad? I ain't mad! I'm hungry and bruised and dizzy and my head hurts and I got lost a couple of times and I'm starving, but I ain't mad, all right? So listen up and listen well, because I got something to tell you.
I'm listening. Sheesh.
You got me pegged all wrong, you hear? I ain't in the business of eating horns. Never been and never will be. And I don't care how pretty you think you are. Even if I liked you, you can't just go around stealing kisses like it was no big deal. That ain't right, ma'am.
Oh, but I haven't stolen anything. I fully intend to pay for that kiss, handsome.
What the hell's that supposed to mean? You seen a price tag on my face? Buy 2 kisses to get Adder's interest-free installment plan?
You know, it's kind of fitting that someone of his financial stature would know what an interest-free payment plan on that is. Oh my goodness.
Now you're just being melodramatic.
I don't know what that word means. I don't even know why I'm telling you any of this. I just wanted to prove to myself I was smart enough to stay put all night without thinking of calling you once.
He knows an interest-free payment plan for kisses.
But then I heard that dumbass hollering down your window, and I got so worried that...
Well, given inflation, you might have a kissing booth that has, installments of financing a kissing booth. Oh my goodness.
So worried that you hid behind a corner and waited until he left? That's helpful.
Darn right I hid! You see the size of that sword on his belt? You look just fine up there, but I would have lost my neck if I butted in.
Sepp's eyebrows rose slowly as she let her head fall on her own hand.
Did you break your backbone when you fell from the bridge?
Excuse you, ma'am. I'm double backbone, triple backboned even. But I'm telling you, I could have died for nothing, and you don't even flinch. You really just don't. You know what? This ain't worth it. I'm going home.
But wait! You can't just leave like that. I still have to pay you back.
Adder halted mid-step. He threw his shoulders back and forth as the silence grew thicker in the street.
I may not be all that smart, ma'am, but I've learned. Oh, I'd say I've learned a lesson or two on how to keep my head on my shoulders since I came to this city. And I can tell right away, you ain't the type to return favors. I don't know what you see for a Sep or plain old Zeld ever want from me, but you're gonna have to find yourself another buck to laugh at tonight.
Is that so? Fine then. If you see the one-eyed chub I was waiting for on the way back home, wish him luck figuring out how to read gazes all on his own.
You ain't got nothing to worry about, ma'am. He'll just have to do without magic as usual.
I hope he can do without food, too, because I'm going to throw away the desserts I ordered for him.
That's a... No. Yeah? For real? No, it's a bluff! You're bluffing!
Now I can see why he didn't like the potatoes.
Am I?
Both adders watched ineptly as Sep unlocked the window and extended an arm slowly through it. She opened her whole hand, save for 2 fingers, letting a tiny pastry dangle outside of the macabre. But it was not any pastry. Oh no. Adder nearly drowned on his saliva as he stared at a beautiful puff pastry filled with fig marmalade, covered with generous layers of nuts slathered in honey, and topped with a beautiful plump date cut to resemble a flower with an almond in its center. It was probably worth more than Adder's total lifelong earnings. It was the kind of pastry his kingdoms fell and were built for. It was a honey dental cavity waiting to happen.
Catch.
The pastry seemed to float briefly in the air as Sep let go of it. Adder hurled himself towards the divine gift that was being offered to him and cushioned its fall. Thank gods for his colossal pastry-catching hands. He didn't so much as eat his bribe as inhale it, believing himself unworthy of presenting such a treat upon his taste buds. The discovery of this new order in the scale of flavor could have been classified as a religious experience for a boy that had been feeding exclusively on tiny stale potatoes for a year, and mostly oats before that.
I think I've fallen in love, man.
Just don't fall on your face again on the way up.
There was surely more banter to be appreciated as the newly bought buck dashed up dashed almost vertically up a column. It was, after all, the beginning of a relationship based on pastries, quick wits, and uninhibiting wine. But Adder couldn't hear a thought through his wailing.
Sep! Sep, can you hear me? Oh, please, Sep, just one! Just let me eat one of those, I beg you! What kind of messed up torture is this?
What in the name of the Hadza are you doing?
The smugly complacent image of past Sep had been replaced by a smugly annoyed present Sep.
Feeling sorry for myself? I thought it's what you were trying to...
For the last time, I wasn't trying anything! I already told you what to do. You just need to use your powers to sort through my emotions and find the relevant memories. Did you intend to sit here and watch the whole season go by until you stumbled upon something important?
What? No, not at all. Come on, Sep. I ain't that dumb. That's just what it looks like from the outside. Yep. But, I'm open to ideas if you got them.
Volcano about to erupt would have looked far more benevolent than Sep at that moment.
Please tell me what to do, ma'am. This is too weird for me.
I'd say I can't believe this, but then again, it's my fault for putting so much trust in a poor excuse for an apprentice such as yourself.
Say what? Think you got that backwards, Missy? You were a poor excuse for a teacher. Every time I asked you to let me read you, you just looked away, said some weird riddle, and told me to think about it later when we were done with... everything else.
A good teacher makes sure to only share as much information as their student can handle, and a good student is supposed to strive to learn more than they're taught. You should have done your homework and practiced on other people.
And how was I supposed to do that? I spent moons trying to read my friends' gazes, but it was like I was all out of fire, you know? It was darker than before when I tried to look inside them. I couldn't see nothing at all. Even my boss looked colder than ever. But after you showed up, I stopped feeling like that. When I felt your warmth and I saw you smiling and talking to me, I don't know, something changed inside me. I felt like you'd lit my oil lamp again.
Don't think I didn't notice.
All right, that's it. If you're gonna be a smartass and twist all my words to make me sound like I'm randy as a trout, you can go find the way out of your head all on your own.
Oh, of course. It's me misunderstanding you.
Hey, keep that sarcasm where I can see it.
And where would that be?
Adder opened and closed his mouth wordlessly a few times before turning around and marching away from the desert rose. Wandering aimlessly around the desert in an angry haste seemed like a good idea until obviously it was not. A quick glance back revealed a rather amused Sept waiting expectantly for Adder's unavoidable concession.
So where were we before you did the thing where you try to embarrass me so I'll stop talking about a thing you don't want to talk about? Something, we're gonna wind up dead if you don't teach me right?
Fine, I'll be lenient and take my share of the blame. I tried to teach you to read gazes in the same way Mom taught me how to do so when I was a fawn, but it's evident that I was already leagues ahead of you back then.
Yeah, I'm a dumbass and a thick skull and I'm lanky and this is the closest my family's ever gotten to read. See, I ain't arguing or anything. Can we move on with the lesson now?
Sept stopped walking for all reply. Adder mimicked her secretly, congratulating himself for winning in the argument somehow. Ignoring her travel companion's silence rejoicing, Sept stared at the ground until a cushion sprouted from it, fully formed and fluffy. Adder waited his turn eagerly, but she didn't extend the favor to him, lest resting his butt on anything other than a sand would weaken his resolve.
Tell me, Adder, do you know why us gaze readers have survived so long? Why no one knows our names when our power is so unbelievably useful?
Oh man, more riddles? I don't know, man. I figure either you're good at keeping secrets or you end up getting torched every other week like the merchant.
Close, but not quite. You are correct in one assumption, however. If a Barhun fortune teller was to say exactly what they heard inside someone else's mind, they'd be thrown into the pyre without any further questions. It's nothing quite as simple as that, no. There's a bigger reason why we, of all Sephi, have escaped pursuit. Even with our powers being so versatile and obvious, we are not infallible, nor irreplaceable. We weren't born to announce great prophecies or change fates.
There was a brief pause. The gazelle harumphed solemnly, trying to signal that silence was out of the question.
All right, Teach. What do we do with the stuff we find out if we can't say it, or change it, or do nothing about it?
Our job consists of weaving histories, Adder. We take the broken bits and pieces that make up a past and tie them together to form a present. We learn and advise, for understanding the past is the closest anyone can get to predicting the future. These are our fortunes.
So we're alive because we're a bunch of scammers making up tall tales. Got it. Mind if we skip to the important bits now?
Ugh! How can you be so bad at this? You're supposed to expand your mind, understand the heft and malleability of your abilities in shaping someone else's fortune, and realize how liberating the lack of your own preset destiny is.
You still speaking Cyrnar?
Sept made a noise that Adder couldn't possibly describe, but that managed to translate without delay the feeling of getting cussed out in another language.
Look, man, I don't mean no offense, but we're just wasting time or whatever it is you waste here. I just gotta know how to use my eye magic thing to spot your weaknesses. Nothing else.
You can't. That's not what this power does. All you can do is follow a current of emotion through the Hatsa, watching the many memories it ties together until you reach its logical conclusion. There's a shared source for all of them.
Okay, so how do I do that?
I don't know, but it's not that hard, damn it. Think of the emotion you want to capture and then follow it. Spin the threads, sail the current, pull the carrots out, or whatever it is that you farmers do. Just picture what you want.
I think the meta forces just don't cut it for me. Maybe it's because I'm dense, but I've always been the kind of buck that learns better watching someone else do things first. Riddle me this. What do you imagine when you're trying to find your way through this stuff?
Sep looked completely taken back by the question. Her eyes shifted nervously from place to place until she realized there was literally nothing else to look at in the desert but the boy in front of her.
It's a diary, okay? I know what you're going to say. Talking to myself is weird. Well, screw that. I've spent most of my life alone. Besides, I've been writing since I was a child. Do you know how hard it is to give up that kind of... You don't have a clue what a diary is, do you?
Adder shook his head awkwardly. He felt almost bad seeing how pointlessly flustered she had gotten. After a few moments of contemplation, Sep turned her face down, set towards her lap. She opened her hands with her palms turned up, watching them intently as dust began to gather in the shape of a rather unassuming, worn-out book. It was the thing that she was writing in before, the lady came into the room, right? It was the same one that he'd seen in her room, yep.
A diary is like a friend in a book. It's a place where you write down all of your memories. So when I'm feeling nostalgic, be it in the real world or here, I just open my diary, think of what kind of memory I want to see, look for an entry, and...
Sounds easy, that should do.
Adder snatched the book from Sep's hands, casually turning it and flipping the pages as he tried to figure out how to use the book.
Hey! Return my diary to me at once! It's private!
Come on, Sep. You know me. Literacy is the name of a soup where I come from. I just want to take a quick look at this diary thing and see if I can find anything to...
There's nothing for you in there! Give it back! I said, give it back!
Sep tugged at the book with a strength that she couldn't have possibly had in the real world. Adder instinctively pulled back, afraid that either the book or Sep would get hurt if he let go. They both grappled with the book, pushing back and forth until it finally slipped from Adder's clumsy hands, floating monotonously open over the two. Adder dashed towards the book, throwing himself to the ground to catch it. Sep didn't wait for the fall, using Adder's hands to trampoline to jump to grab the book before it plummeted.
Don't you dare touch my things ever again!
She clutched the book against her chest, far angry and far more embarrassed than she meant to let on. Adder was blowing on a surprisingly painful step marks she left when noticing something falling from the sky, a little piece of paper. It landed carefully on Adder's hands, of all the places, as if inviting him to look at it.
Sep, wait, you forgot
The ground before Adder began trembling as a small dust storm gathered around the page. Walls began rising from the ground as a new room emerged, forcing them both back towards each other.
What page was that? What did you...
Honey, please, let me in.
Ah! Go away! No!
Oh, Sep, I'm so sorry I scared you. I'm not mad, see? You didn't make me mad. I just got a tad upset because I was trying to have an important conversation with Dad while you kept tugging at my sleeve and I lost my temper. I didn't mean to yell at you like that. I'm sorry, dear. I really am. It's not your fault this is happening.
The gazelle fawn stepped away from the door, letting the doe walk in at last.
That's okay. We all make mistakes, as long as you understand.
Sep took Zar's hand and patted it softly, like an old woman would.
Where did you learn that?
Tree Dad says it. He talks funny.
Illigrab is not your dad, sweetheart.
Nah, you're not my mom too. But that's okay. I like you more than my old mom. She never said sorry to me. I'll make you a present for being a good mom.
The tiny gazelle turned away from Zara and began scampering around the room, looking for the perfect cushion to plop on. She produced a piece of charcoal from the sleeves of her dress and crumpled up a piece of paper while doodling on it. Or at least, that's what Zara thought at first. She soon realized that the lines Sepp were drawing of the paper were far more elaborate than mere scribbles.
Did Illigrab teach you how to write too?
No, Big Bro teach me. He says I have to do his homework to pay for the room or he'll kick me out. But he doesn't know that I like it. Shh.
Zara didn't have time to react to this revelation as the piece of sooty paper was shoved straight into her snout.
For you, it says I like Mom a lot, so you don't forget and get angry again.
Zara stared at the piece of paper, flummoxed, then at Sepp, who was looking back at her expectantly in turn. And then she gave Sepp the strongest hug she'd ever given anyone. It was perhaps the first hug the fawn had ever known. Zara let go of her all of a sudden, prompted a quizzical look from her child.
I have just the perfect gift for you. Wait right here.
The imagery of a happy mother dashing out of the room dissolved into heavy clouds of dust. The gazelle that remained after the sand dissipated looked entirely too meek and gaunt to be the Sepp Adler knew.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Adder bent down, picked up the piece of paper, and handed it back to Sepp. She pushed the whole diary into his hands instead.
Keep that stupid thing. It's obvious that you can make my diary work just as well as I can.
No way! I can't even read it! How am I supposed to... Huh? Wait, I love Mom? Are these words? What's going on? Hold up. Don't tell me I'm a natural word reader.
He's literate! Da-da-da-da, you found the literacy.
Of course not. Text stops making any sense inside people's minds for some reason. The writing here doesn't make any sense either. It just says what I know it should say. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to assume that once you've seen the memory attached to the entry, you know, too.
Whoa! Oh, you're right! This ain't the only page with words. Let me see. I can read the ones I saw before, and... Hey! I think I know this one-eyed chub you're talking about here.
Fantastic. Have fun stripping me of the last readout of privacy I had left in my life.
Hey, Sepp, look at me. I won't do nothing like that, okay? I promise I'll only read what I need to find a way out and give it back as soon as I'm done.
There's no need. It's not the real one.
With a flick of her wrist, the book burst into innocuous flames within Adder's hand. The smoke and the ashes all vanished into thin air within seconds. Sepp took Adder's hand, focused, and made a new one appear exactly where the previous one was.
Nothing is real here.
Sepp vanished without another word, and soon the rest of the world followed after. The diary remained unaffected by the darkness that extended in all directions, however, as if inviting Adder to get lost in its contents. Something told him that the moment he turned the page, there would be no turning back. Hold on a second. So I think maybe we should stop there for tonight. I think that might be good. I think that, as you said, as Ramir said, the chapters probably get longer as they go. So I think that's a good breaking point. And you guys can also make up a decision as you go. So be prepared, I guess, to make the decision of if we're ready to ever go, or we gotta save Sepp. Choice at last. I know, 2.5 hours. It's a pretty linear game, but like that's it's a visual novel through and through, right? It's about the story rather than about like. All right, so we'll continue our story next time then. You guys will make a decision if we're going to. So I'll try to be on time, or I'll try to be a little late so you guys can make a decision while you're waiting. I'm ready as we'll ever be, or we gotta save Sep. Anyways, we'll continue our game next time on August 10th at 5 p.m. Thank you guys for watching tonight. Feed the algorithm if you wish. Or if not, that's fine too. I can't control what you do with your life. Have a good one and see you next week. Choice is telegraphing to you. You should save your game. Yeah, that's probably true. I didn't save it for 2.5 hours. I'm lucky it didn't crash or anything. See you next week, guys.